It's time for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Join your host, the accomplished Dr. Cherilyn Lee, as she welcomes the leading experts in health and well-being as they explore the advancements in natural health, physical fitness, nutrition, integrative medicine, and self-discovery.
Well, we are back in the studio again for part 2. I know you saw our wonderful show before with my 2 wonderful guests, which we're going to start all over and have them introduce themselves again, just in case you were not around to see the show before. But you know, our topic is something that's very powerful because I was just asked this question from a patient more than once. Why am I not healing? And the other patients are. So I have a doctor here with me who he gets the same questions. He have people coming in his office as well, and people ask, why am I not getting better? And this person is getting better. So there are some reasons why some people heal and some people don't. So that is the title of our show. I want to thank you for tuning in, and now I'm going to introduce my wonderful guests. Better yet, I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So I have Dr. Dan Tanner.
Do I get to go first?
Yes, this time.
Okay. I'm Dan Kenner. I'm a writer and a consultant in alternative healthcare, and I trained in Japan in Oriental medicine, so I'm licensed in Japan, and I'm licensed in California, and I've been doing clinical work, and I've seen quite a few cancer patients and asked this question. A lot of cancer patients came for alternative treatment because they don't want to do the conventional treatment. But in the last few years, a number of people want to do clinical treatment with conventional methods, chemotherapy, radiation, and want to optimize their results. So that's one of the things we want to talk about today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I have another guest who was here before. He's no stranger to NuWellness Healthcare with TV. No stranger at all. And I want to thank him again from coming all the way a second time. No, I'm just kidding. From Japan. So we decided to do another taping while he was still here from Japan, because that's a long ways to travel again just to do a live show. But such wonderful, great information, and such a wonderful, great person with, you know, not only just a great person, a loving heart. And I love the mission of their business, a business that that I'm now becoming a major part of because of the results that I've seen. I'm always asked to be part of businesses and organizations, and but I pick and choose very carefully because I want something. It has nothing to do with money. For me, it has to do with a person's life and how well they heal. So I am thrilled and so honored to be with a company that actually have something that actually work, and then not gouging people for thousands of dollars, which I just found out a colleague of mine has a product that he's getting ready to charge $2,000 per bottle. I was really surprised. But I just want to I'm so grateful that this company takes into account of a person's healing, along with the costs and what's going on with them as well. So my guest, please introduce yourself.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you for having me here. My name is Nori Shirai, Executive Director of Daiwa Pharmaceutical. We are a Japanese manufacturer of nutraceutical products. We have a very unique products in the market, and our vision is to help people who have healthy life and the quality of life. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much. It looked like you might still be in a plane, a little tilted there.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're doing just fine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. I know it's been a long day. Thank you for bearing with me here. I'm just grateful for what we're going to discuss, Dr. Kenner, because of the fact that so many people from our last show had a lot to say and was so happy that we brought this show on board. Some are current patients, some are patients who just started, so they were happy to hear some of the information. So let's jump right into, I know I have my feel of why some people heal and why some people don't. But tell me what happens in your practice.
Well, as I've investigated this, I feel like there are about 7 or 8 reasons, factors that can interfere with someone's getting well. Now, some doctors I think I mentioned this on the previous show, but some doctors at a hospital in Glasgow, Scotland, ask the same question. How come some of our patients die really quickly and others seem to get out of the hospital and get on with their lives?
Yes.
And they found inflammatory markers, in particular, C-reactive protein is one of them. And so they measured inflammatory markers and measured the ratios of them and found that there's a certain threshold beyond which the patient's inflammation is such that it's very difficult for them to recover.
Mm-hmm.
So inflammation is one factor that can not only be potentially a cause, but can interfere with healing. It can promote cancer development. It can promote metastasis. And this is one reason.
Just the inflammation causing the cancer to spread and metastasize.
Right. The inflammatory byproducts can affect at the cellular level and promote cancer development. They can promote metastasis. And this is a reason why surgery or a biopsy, for example, can be a negative factor for healing.
Okay.
Now, another important factor is oxidative stress.
Yes.
And this is a little bit more difficult to explain, but people who have studied aging know that oxidation is a cause of aging. And it inside the cell, there are antioxidant systems that prevent oxygen from damaging the cells. But as we get older, these systems break down. Mm-hmm. And the oxidative stress can be a factor. And there are actually devices that are used to measure this. And there are 2 or 3. These are not particularly mainstream. And then there's also a test called the dried blood oxidative test, which takes a drop of blood, mm-hmm. lets it coagulate on a slide, and then observes the changes in it to try to determine and give a numerical value for how oxidized a person's system is.
I'll have to try that. So it's something you can do in your office.
Yeah. Well, there are devices that you can get, and
so it's devices not like dry cell analysis.
Well, there's live blood analysis.
Well, live blood and dry blood.
Some people who are familiar with live blood analysis mm-hmm. can figure out if there's a lot of oxidative stress. Basically, oxidation causes viscosity. The blood becomes more viscous, or the lymph becomes more viscous with oxidation. And that's why we hear so much about antioxidants.
Right, and let's just go back a little bit because I want people to understand viscous. Viscous is something that's moving very slow. And I usually give people kind of an analogy that if you were to take, we don't eat this, okay, lard and maybe Crisco oil and squeeze it into an IV tubing, the viscous would be the lard. That mm-hmm. would be the one squeezing into there. So that's very thick and viscous, and guess what happens to the lining of everything else? So whereas you would take maybe some heated oil and pour it into an IV tubing, you would see it go through. So viscous is something that's thick and is going to move thick. Do you still kind of consider that more of that sticky blood, or
sticky, but also the lymph?
Lymph?
It becomes thick and doesn't flow. It should flow like water.
Shouldn't people
and then
like
the
that?
lymph nodes can get congested and bunched up from that.
What about blood clots? Do you find more people having blood clots with this viscous blood?
Oh yeah. That's oxidation.
Yeah. So
what happens when blood's exposed to oxygen?
Mm-hmm.
Coagulates. That could happen inside the skin or outside the skin.
Yes. So I want people to realize that too, especially with blood clot, because now we're hearing more and more pulmonary embolisms. We're hearing more people with blood clots, mm-hmm. and usually the ones that have it have sometimes been on a certain medication that exactly doing oxidative stress. Mm-hmm. Their C-reactive protein or inflammation markers have been elevated to have this as well.
Well, and of course, cardiovascular disease is blood pressure being high doesn't kill you. What kills you is a blood clot in the heart or causing a stroke. And so hypercoagulability of the blood, when it clots easily right there inside the arteries or the veins, is a mortal risk factor.
Yeah. So we should probably be looking at, for those who are being able to view, maybe see what a blood clot looks like.
Mhm.
You know, let's just pull something up and maybe see what blood clots. You know,
Mhm.
it's just so sad because it happened to my daughter here recently.
Mhm.
My granddaughter had a blood clot. I've had 7 family members, and my past, I've had 2 pulmonary embolisms,
Mhm.
but they were postpartum. But they was postpartum because of my blood was too viscous.
Mhm.
You know, it's too thick during that time after postpartum. So we have to watch what we're doing and take care of ourselves on every level, because we're seeing more and more. Now they're even showing that the particulates in the air are so large, those parts in the air, that it's causing blood clots
Mhm.
and heart attacks and cancer. So, but if you're taking in things in your body that you need to have, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to be so susceptible to everything to come along and become ill, correct?
Mhm. That's right.
So
That's right.
we want to make sure that this is done, and this is why I take this product, this wonderful BRM4, which we're still kind of talking about here, and I do some other natural things too. Let me just ask, we were talking on the last show about BRM4. Are there any contraindications?
Not really. I think if someone has really high thyroid activity, I would use it more cautiously.
Okay.
But other than that, I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah, they're-
And why
I mean, they're
thyroid?
Well, because that's what seems to happen clinically in some cases,
Okay.
that it has a slight stimulating effect. This is rare. You don't see that many hyperthyroid cases, but that's the only time clinically that I would hesitate and maybe start at a lower dose to test the water.
Right.
Otherwise, even people with fungal infections, chronic fungal infections can use it, even though it's a mushroom product, because
gonna ask you.
it's, that's a question people often ask me. So, well, I have
It's a
candida.
mushroom,
Can I
and
use a
have-
mushroom
yeah.
product? Well, it's cultured, so that this mushroom product is really thoroughly digested and assimilable, and it's been actually used to treat candida infections when they affect immunity.
Wonderful. So these are some very good points that you're bringing up the second time around, and we will be airing those who are listening, because there are a lot of people listening too. Please keep all that in mind,
Mhm.
because this is really important, and we'll at the end of the show let you know how that you could purchase the product, and just give my name when you call, and we'll get that going for you as well. But back to cardiovascular, because cardiovascular is part of my nonprofit. It's called Beauty Shop Stroke Screening,
Mhm.
and that's the clots in the arteries, in the carotid artery. And the other is a 3-minute cardiovascular screening that I do.
Mhm.
So the one thing I was telling people in that you can have a normal cholesterol level and normal blood pressure and still have a heart attack. And so what you're saying this about viscous blood, people, that and oxidation, those are some key important.
One inflammatory
Okay.
process will
Yes,
drive
okay.
up oxidation too.
Yes.
And then just aging. As we get older, the red blood cells, which are called erythrocytes, have kind of a donut shape, although the whole of the donut's filled in, so
Yes.
kind of like a dish. But as we get older, they become more like a sphere. And as they become more shaped like a ball, the surface area is actually smaller, so they're less efficient at transporting oxygen to the cells.
And what age is this? Because I'm getting older, and I don't think that's happening to me yet.
Well, good. How old does this happen? It can happen in
Age.
people who are really young
Young,
too.
yeah,
If
depending
they're
on your
if they're
lifestyle.
smokers and they have a poor lifestyle habits, it can happen really at any age.
Mhm.
But the natural progression of oxidative stress is people in their 60s and 70s. That's when we see signs of it.
I don't know why this question is sort of coming to mind. Maybe because I'm seeing more and more people who work for the airlines and who travel a lot flying because of the diesel fuel from whatever. Is that diesel fuel coming from the airplanes?
The jet fuel, yeah.
The jet fuel.
Well, the altitude is a factor, and the
Yeah.
dryness is a factor. The dehydrating of it can concentrate the fluids.
Yeah, a lot of people when they fly, it's like, oh no, I don't want to drink a lot of water because I don't want to have to get up and
Have
go
to
back,
get up all the
especially
time
with
and
long flights.
wake up people who really have to step over them.
Yeah.
Not
And you got to
fun.
keep in mind you want to keep moving and stay hydrated
Mhm.
because you don't want to have the viscous blood because so many people have had heart attacks on flights, long flights as well. So that's really important.
Yeah.
So what group of people, and also I'm looking at a group of people, and it has been studied. Your night, what do they call them? Night people who work at night is the name for them.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so those people, their immune system they find more is compromised too. People who work like 11 to 12, 11 to o'clock in the morning to the next day at 7 or 8. Those night shift workers,
Hmm.
even your people who work for the fire department and and that line of work, people who are night shift workers. Tell me a little bit more what's happening because I know that their immune system is very compromised because they're missing certain hormones
Hmm.
for working nights.
Well, vitamin D is a problem, because we need at least some sun exposure, and we can get it from fish oil and things like that. But there are also brain neurotransmitter effects.
Hmm.
Our body's designed to have serotonin start converting into melatonin, which is the sleep hormone, right
Yes.
around between 11 and 12 p.m. And when you disrupt that, there's a cascade of neuroendocrine changes that can occur.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a lot of depth in this area, but I do know that there are certain pathologies that are typical, and even increased cancer rates among people who have this kind of disruption in their circadian rhythm, it's
Yeah.
called.
That's what I was about to bring up, the circadian rhythm, because
Mhm.
definitely if that's off, there will be some problems. And a lot of people that have cancer have problems sleeping. It's definitely going to be a major problem with their ability to heal. So that's definitely one of the reasons why some people heal and some don't.
Mhm.
So I'm going to let you go ahead with the other ones that you're going to be listing.
Well, something that goes along with oxidative stress is pH, changes in acid and alkalinity. As we get older, the blood becomes more alkaline, and the increased alkalinity and the oxidative stress kind of go hand in hand. There was a scientist in France about 60 years ago that developed a method of measuring the pH, the acid and alkalinity of blood, saliva, and urine, and also the oxidative stress and the electrical resistance.
Okay.
And he found that people where the blood pH is getting up to about 7.6, 7.7, and the blood's electrical resistance is getting down toward 100 ohms, are at very high risk for cancer.
And how is this tested?
Well, it's pH. There's a device that he developed for testing
Oh,
it.
he developed. Okay.
Yeah, he developed it originally for testing water.
Okay.
And when you're testing pH, you're testing basically positive charge or protons.
Right.
When you're testing oxidative stress, you're testing concentration of electrons or negative charge. And then resistance is just the flow between them.
Exactly.
So he called this submolecular biology.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a number of doctors in Germany and in France that have used this. It's too crude for real fine tuning of diagnosis, but it
Okay.
can definitely show that
Yeah.
someone is
Yeah, I would
is
like
at
to
risk.
see that. I had a lady who, years ago, she said, "Can you send my blood work into the lab to test for my pH?"
Mhm.
So I tried it. I knew they was going to call me back, and they said, "Is the person in ICU?" I said, "No, the person is not in ICU. They just want to know their blood pH." Well, we don't test for blood pH unless they're, in ICU, about to not be here.
Mhm.
Outside of that, nobody seemed to care.
Mhm.
I can't say they didn't care, but they didn't do those type tests.
Yeah, the highest that I've seen that's been recorded by this scientist was 9.3, and this was someone in a hospital who died a few minutes later.
9.3?
But 7.7, 7.8 is getting up there into a risky zone for cancer. And the oxidative stress seems to follow right along with it.
Okay. Because I tell people it's just as dangerous to have, people talk about, being alkaline and the acid. But if you don't have them balanced, you can have problems with both.
Well, they get extreme. The blood gets
Yeah.
too alkaline in the connective tissue, and the tissues begin to accumulate a lot of acidic waste, and that creates a bed for where chronic disease can develop.
Yeah. So what the one thing we see with people with COPD and respiratory is they're more alkaline. They're not really acid, so because they're not exchanging air properly. So I see that what you just said there, how that would happen to a person with asthma, COPD, any type of respiratory chronic.
Yeah. Well, rheumatoid arthritis, you see a more alkaline kind of condition in the tissues, and osteoarthritis is more of an acidic type of buildup.
Yeah, so we won't get into the water because I'm not a big belief in all the water stuff because water has to go through the stomach where there's hydrochloric acid there, but that's a whole nother story. But what do you find in taking the BRM4 that we've discussed? What do you find it to help with the alkalinity?
It's
Well,
not
the
really. It's
balancing.
not really specifically for that. You know,
Not for, but maybe
the
help the balance.
the anti-inflammatory properties of it though can
And the
help.
oxidative.
If there's tissue inflammation, very often there's an acidic buildup, and some of it is uric acid, lactic acid, waste products that aren't draining out properly, and so cooling down the inflammation is important.
Okay.
I also recommend proteolytic enzymes for that.
Yes.
And that's another long story too, but
It's not too long,
not
though.
too long. But they're
But really important.
they're important.
Yes.
They help with inflammation, and for cancer patients, they're also important in terms of exposing tumors to immune surveillance, because the enzymes can scratch the surface off. Tumors pretend like they're normal tissue, and so the immune system bypasses them. But if you scratch that surface off, then the immune system says, whoa, what have we got here? And then they'll go after it. And so the enzymes have been used for that in natural cancer therapies for over 100 years. And they're also good for just general inflammatory problems. And
Yeah.
to take after a biopsy or surgery or that
I like
kind
that.
of thing.
Oh, because I had dental surgery, very intense at one time. And the dentist was a biological holistic dentist who did not believe in antibiotics after surgery for many reasons, for the pocketing and problems with the antibiotics. So I took in a massive dose of proteolytic enzymes, no swelling, no inflammation, no pain. So it's very good for healing.
I'm really glad you brought that up. But let me say, first of all, that proteolytic enzymes are enzymes that break down proteins.
Yes.
And we get inflammation because tissues get broken down. And when a tissue is broken, they're made of protein. They're instantly a waste product, and the enzymes break them down. And this is what our immune system does. So when we supplement with them, we're helping our immune system do what it's trying to do. But you brought up biological dentistry. And that's part of my top 10 list, or my top 8
Very
list.
good. Mine too.
The one thing that is often ignored and neglected is the possible presence of what's called a focal infection. Often they're root canal teeth. Now that doesn't mean that all root canals create focal infection, but very often when there is a focal infection, it's with a root canal tooth. Biological dentists have ways of diagnosing these using x-rays and other methods. You can also use thermography. Some dentists, I've met a couple of dentists that use thermography to identify them.
And we can see that too with our CRT.
And they drain immune resources. They can be a cause of cancer, and they can be one of the reasons why people change their diet, they improve their lifestyle, they still don't get better because you have to get them out. And this is so hard to talk to patients about, because you need to take it out.
Yeah. You know, that focal point, dealing with the dentist, years ago, it's a dear friend of mine who was in Arizona, Dr. Takamoto, that I had mentioned before, who had a retreat, and he had some testimonies of people there. And the one with he had liver cancer, and he had been not doing well. But his holistic practitioner or integrative medicine doctor said, look, you've had a root canal with a focal point problem, and you have a cap there. So tell the dentist to remove it. And if they remove it, to go in and clean that out. Do the cavitation, clean it out properly. You know, now some people are doing certain other things, you know, PRP, ozone, different things that relate to dentistry. But the dentist says, no, I'm not going to do that because I x-rayed it as normal. So when he said, well, if you don't, you know, charge your insurance company and you pay cash, I'll take care of it. So he did. And at that point, he went in, when he removed the cap, the odor was so foul because people forget that's just rotten
Yeah.
all the way
I'll
to
bet.
his liver. And when he cleaned it out, he went into remission. I'm sure that's like 25 years ago. And he's still doing fine. I mean, he took the best supplements. And I tell people, you can take the best supplements. You can change your diet. You can change your mental attitude. You can forgive everybody in the world. I mean, you can do all these wonderful things, but if you don't start with the mouth, you know, the dental.
Well, you have this dead
you're
tissue
wasting-
in there, and it
You're
gets
wasting a
inflamed.
lot of money.
They take this very seriously at the natural cancer doctors in Germany and Switzerland, and this is one of the things that they look for. And this was part of the mainstream in dentistry back in the 1920s and 1930s. Focal infections of the mouth were considered to be a potential cause of cancer, of arthritis, of allergic skin conditions, and it was in the peer-reviewed medical literature. But after the Second World War, it virtually disappeared, and now it sounds cranky, and it sounds, you know, it smells of fruitcake, but
I know.
but it's a very serious thing.
You know, because there's several people that have some intense skin conditions, and I can't get them to do the holistic, you know, check into the at least get a consultation.
Yeah,
You know, I go over to Tijuana. That's just what I like to do.
yeah.
And get a full consultation. It's very inexpensive.
There's some good
At
people
least
there
you
too.
know, at least you know what's going on. I mean, we have good people here, but if you want to, you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend here in the city, then if you go there, it's less than $200. And very good dentists to just know what's going on. Especially if you have a lot of health challenges and nobody can get to the root cause. And I like to go beyond the root because there's something else attached to the root. So let's go beyond the root cause of the problem so that we can start helping the body to heal.
And sometimes it is the root cause, and I've seen that particularly in blood cancers, but it can be a drain on our immune resources for any type of cancer.
Yeah. But there's a root, but the root is attached to a soil. So we got to look at the soil too. So I like to go kind of a little bit beyond. This is why we work so well together, because we can kind of pull things together to help people to heal. You're an amazing practitioner, and I thank you for that.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Thank you. I'm just kidding.
I'm grateful to have this opportunity because I think these are really important issues.
They're important
And
issues.
I've
Yes, they
studied
are.
the natural cancer therapies. I've seen people use alternative methods and get completely well, and avoiding the conventional treatment. It's hard work. There's no magic. There are no magic bullets. There are things that can help with tumor reduction. But it's important to remember that conventional therapy is about treating the tumor, getting rid of the tumor, and there's more to the disease than just the tumor.
Exactly.
One other important feature of the natural cancer therapies is supporting metabolism. And this is usually done by using thyroid, particularly armor thyroid, to support the metabolism. But if the metabolism is too sluggish, cold hands and cold feet, and a generally sluggish system, the body is unable to throw off its burden, its toxic burden, its tumor burden. It can't get rid of it unless there's enough voltage there to do it.
Right.
And usually supplying thyroid is one way of doing this.
Okay. So there's the people too who are not probably gaining weight and becoming more and more weaker and tired because of not gaining weight. Sometimes losing appetite too. So
Yeah.
that's really good. So you prefer the armor thyroid versus?
Well, the synthetic thyroid is only thyroxine or T4, and we can't assume that it's going to be converted into the active form, which is
Exactly.
called T3. Armor thyroid is whole thyroid extract, so it has the T4 and the T3. And you need to have a reasonably healthy liver to convert the T4 into T3.
Right.
And it is difficult to test for. We can't really rely on the blood tests for
can't.
the thyroid. The old-fashioned way is
The Barnes test.
the Barnes test.
Yes.
Or the Achilles tendon reflex is one of the old ways of
And how
diagnosing.
is that done? Maybe you can pull that up for our viewers. Achilles tendon
Well, you
reflex.
take a
The
hammer
hammer?
and patients lying prone, you lift up their ankle and you tap the Achilles tendon, and it should react like that. But if it reacts like a one of those automatic doors, kind of,
slow.
that's a sluggish reflex and
Okay.
a sign. And it's very subjective, of course.
Okay, the
but,
Achilles tendon reflex. I like that, and it's a real simple test.
Yeah.
You can have your family member get a hammer. No, I'm just kidding, not a hammer.
Well, the temperature is good, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a lot easier because the Barnes temperature tests for thyroid, they have the forms and everything all over YouTube, internet, and just get a thermometer. Be careful if it's glass, and don't put it around kids because it's a shame they say, the mercury in the thermometer is unsafe for the children, unsafe if you break it, called
But they'll put it in
poison
your mouth,
control,
won't
but they will put it in your mouth. It's like, oh,
Yes,
gee, so it's okay for my mouth, but I need to call the poison control
Mm-hmm.
if I spill it. So just be very careful. But to do the test and then, contact a practitioner, myself, you also, doctor, and let's see what's kind of going on and assess the thyroid. So you don't have to have a condition per se to have a thyroid disorder, because the majority of us kind of have thyroid issues kind of going on. But you want to know how you're going to work that up and how it's going to be treated properly.
A lot of progressive doctors feel that the cause of cancer and many other chronic diseases is mitochondrial failure.
Yes.
The mitochondrion is a little organelle inside the cell. It's like a battery. And that's where the energy is produced by hydrolysis of ATP bonds and all that. But T3, the thyroid hormone, activates the mitochondrion. And also coenzyme Q10.
Yes.
Coenzyme Q10 is another way to approach
The
increasing the metabolism in
definitely.
general.
That's why I like to give the patients the coenzyme Q10 IM injections for the same reason, because you can feel the difference, because I have it myself for various reasons, but great for my heart.
They did a study in Denmark where they gave women with breast cancer coenzyme Q10 and found that it arrested progression of the disease.
Really?
Interestingly enough, in the next, this was published in a Danish medical journal, or in a peer-reviewed medical journal.
Okay.
But the next issue, the lead researcher sent a letter saying, I know this is anecdotal, but a couple of the ladies who were in our study took massive doses of coenzyme Q10 and experienced complete regression of the disease. It completely cleared up.
Right.
And he said, I know that this isn't scientific proof, but I thought it was worth mentioning.
Oh my goodness, that is, because I know the ladies. My 96-year-old, she's just phenomenal. I tell everybody about her. She's had an interview with me in the clinic. 96 years old, she has all her own teeth. At 96, she still drives. She took the driver's test and only missed 2. So people talk about dementia and all these other things. 96, so she's phenomenal. But she was also on the BRM4, and she gets the coenzyme Q10 shots. So the combination together, but everything that's watched, and her doctors have said, we have never seen your lab where it looks so healthy. Now, my daughter, during her pregnancy, she could not do a lot of the coenzyme Q10. So she ate a lot of the heart itself, because the heart itself is full of coenzyme Q10.
Exactly.
Yeah, so she did stews.
In Japan,
soups.
it's considered to be a heart medication. And I'm not sure that it's sold as freely in Japan as it is in this country, because it's sold here as a supplement.
What, like the
Coenzyme
granulars?
Q10.
Oh,
Yeah.
Q10.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can get it just about everywhere, but IM is a little different.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
that's
pharmaceutical, so
more
I
of
have to order that. It is a prescription.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's just amazing, and how well all these things work so well together. So
Well, going down my list, I want to talk about one of the other ones that's really difficult to discuss with people. Of course, the dental problems that some people might have is very difficult to talk to people about. But the other thing is sugar. Sugar addiction. We think about sugar and diabetes, but sugar is a major factor in cardiovascular disease, and it's a major factor in who lives and who thrives with regard to cancer and other life-threatening diseases.
Right.
So I tell people, don't tell yourself you can never have sugar again, but don't be addicted. And the more serious your case is, the more severe and the more strict you want to be about consuming sugar.
Yes, yes. There's a lot of research information out there on sugar and cancer, but I also want to say, too, that I see a lot, and it was a research that was done on looking at the copper-zinc ratio for cancer. So as far as the blood test is concerned, and knowing what that ratio is on the copper-zinc. And there's one vegetable that I love, and not so much I love it because I don't have a condition, but the cancer patients love it because, too, it helps them put weight on, but it's so high in copper, and that's avocados. So avocados are very, very high in copper.
Well, the copper has an affinity for estrogen,
Yeah.
and zinc is more for androgen. So when we test for zinc and copper, we're looking at an androgen and estrogen ratio. And as we know, elevated estrogen can promote inflammation, can promote cancer
Yes.
development and progression. And but the avocado oil is one of the healthy oils.
Yeah.
So
well, the oil,
yeah.
eating the plant is a little,
Yeah.
a little high in, especially if you have a malignancy. It's totally different. So you want your medium chain fatty acids, which is really important. You know what I like to add? So I want you to you have a couple more, I think.
Well, yeah. And this is another one that's difficult, and that's unresolved emotional trauma.
Yes.
You know, you could say that, perhaps you experienced physical, emotional, or sexual abuse when you were a child, but, that was a long time ago. I'm over it. Well, maybe not. Maybe it needs to be investigated. And as we mentioned in the last show we did, emotional trauma and stress in general can reduce natural killer cell activity.
Yes.
And the NK cells, for short, are the scavengers that destroy cancer cells, prevent them from taking hold. They destroy all kinds of abnormal cells, including cells at the end of their natural life cycle. The NK cells break them down, and they become inert when we're under stress. Now, BRM4 is my go-to for increasing natural killer cell activity, not only for cancer patients, but for elderly people with bronchitis, pneumonia, that type of thing. And I want to make it clear that if you take BRM4 and if you improve natural killer cell activity, that's not necessarily how you resolve the emotional problems.
Yes.
But it can protect you. It can protect your immune system while you do investigate what it is that could be bringing you down,
Right.
what it is that could be interfering with your healing process.
Yeah, and let it take the time. That's why I don't schedule a lot of patients anymore. I have a smaller practice because now I take my time to listen. If you take it, sometimes people just need to vent. They need to get it out. Total stranger, just get it out. I had a situation once where a lady came to a clinic. I only covered this clinic 1 week because I didn't really like how the doctor treated his patients. So it wasn't not a holistic clinic. But this lady, she came in very, very late. And the clinic was telling me, if you want to see her, fine. If you don't, fine, because we're going to be closing soon. And I went in the room, and I looked at her, and she was so emaciated. She was just skin and bone. And they said she's a hypochondriac. If you want to see her, fine. So I started looking through her charts. They said everything's normal. And it was. Everything was normal. I mean, her blood sugar, and there was no cancer. She had seen a psychiatrist. All of these things was normal. So I looked at her, and she said, so I guess you're going to be the ones to tell me you know what's wrong with me. And I said, yes, I am. And I looked at her. She had her head down. She had tears. She said, so what's wrong with me? I said, you're suffering from a broken heart. And she said, how do you know? I said, I'm a woman. I've been there.
Been there, done that.
Been there,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
can see it.
Mhm.
Then she began to tell me. So the clinic left. They left,
Mhm.
locked me up in the clinic and said, if you want to stay and keep talking to her for hours, fine. But that's all she needed.
Mhm.
So it was 2 hours. But luckily she was the last one.
Well, that intuitive part of your practice is vital.
Yeah.
There's an old medical adage. I think it was Dr. Oshman, a famous turn of the 20th century physician, said that if you just let your patient talk long enough, they'll tell you what's wrong with them.
Exactly. And
It
that's
takes
what
a
I
couple
do.
of hours.
It takes
maybe more.
yeah, but I let them
Maybe a
talk.
few visits.
And usually we get it done the first visit. It might take a while, but I schedule my appointments that way.
Mhm.
So I said, well, I want to do it that way because I want to know the true reason. My almost my entire childhood life was spent as a patient, and I know how people did not take time to listen.
Mhm.
So I know it's important to listen to a person.
Mhm.
So, and I met this lady about maybe 10, 12 years later. She walked up to me, and I was standing around a group of people, and she said, "Can I just give you a hug?" I said, "Sure." And she said, "I'm the lady you stayed in the clinic to
Mhm.
talk to. I just needed that one talk." She had
Mhm.
gained her weight. She graduated from USC.
Could you recognize her?
No,
Yeah.
no.
People,
She looked
people
so
you can
good. I did not
transform yourself.
recognize her.
Mhm.
She said, because she said I couldn't talk to family,
Mhm.
anyone. Just listen to her that one time. This is during the time there were pagers, because I gave her my pager number. I said, call me.
Uh-huh.
She never called me. She said, I just needed that one talk, just
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that did the trick. Sometimes
Yeah.
it takes a while to get that
So
across.
I have experiences.
Yeah.
You have experience. Before we run out of time, I would love for you to give me a couple case studies. I like case
Okay.
studies.
Well, you reminded me of one where I had a woman come in with a breast lump that was malignant, and she didn't want to do conventional treatment. And so I said, well, are you willing to make major lifestyle changes and take some supplements and do this work as a full-time job? Because this is one of the doctors that cured cancer was Max Gerson back in the 20th century.
Oh, yes, I know.
And so she was willing to do the program. And the program is extensive. You have to drink a lot of freshly juiced juices. There's very little animal protein that's in it. It involves caffeine retention enemas, which are not for colon cleansing. They're for liver and gallbladder
Oh, yes, it's
cleansing.
It's in the Mertz manual.
Yeah.
So it's in a medical book, yeah.
And up until 1974, I've got an old Merck manual that's got a whole page of therapeutic enemas
Oh, my
that
goodness.
were part of standard practice back
I
then.
don't see it now.
No, I've still got a copy of that though. And
could
she
borrow
was
it.
using castor oil directly on the lump, and I saw her for a few times and didn't see her until she came to my front door one time to return a book that I'd loaned her. I didn't recognize her,
Oh,
and she looked very attractive. She looked like a couple of years younger than I'd remembered her, and I was embarrassed because she had to tell me her name. I said,
oh my goodness, you're amazing.
so I gave her a hug. I got my book back, but
Yes.
that's one that comes to mind of someone who really transformed their life.
Yes.
Most people are going to do a combination of treatment with chemotherapy and radiation, and what I see often is people get a better result if they use certain supplements, if they use proteolytic enzymes, if they use BRM4. Now, BRM4 fortunately has been tested with a lot of chemotherapy agents and found it to be compatible, and that's even at MD Anderson, at
I
places
love
in
it.
the U.S. So there's not a problem with compatibility there, but a lot of oncologists will say don't take any supplements because
No.
we're afraid the antioxidants will interfere with the effect of chemotherapy,
always
when
say that.
exactly the opposite is true, and the medical literature reflects that.
Yes.
So that's an important thing for people to hear. I've had patients of mine say, well, my doctor said I can't take any supplements because I want to give them BRM4. He said, well, ask your doctor if it's okay to take mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Ask him if it's okay to take rice bran. ask them if it's okay to take seaweed, because all the supplements
That's
that I
what it
use
is.
are foods.
It's food.
Yeah.
It's food. That's what I like, and that's what I tell people. You're getting food. You're not getting a supplement.
Mhm.
And please don't say I'm giving you medication,
Yeah.
because I don't give you medication.
Mhm.
So that is such a key point, and I really thank you for that. And before we do end, if you could just repeat your mission statement for the BRM4 company one last time, I really appreciate it, because it's so powerful as to who you are as far as the business is concerned, and the wonderful marketing that you do. And yippee, I'm on board for the marketing,
Yeah.
which I've been doing for years anyway,
Mhm.
because I like the results.
Or when you find something you really believe in.
You believe in, then you
It's,
will definitely do that. So, the topics we discovered from skin, from external to internal,
Mhm.
with the BRM form has been really absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to have
Nourish right.
Nourish Right.
Yeah.
Before the show is over, I'll get it. Nourish Right.
Yeah, thank you, Dr.
To
Lee.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I
and thank you
learned-
so
I
much for
learned a lot
listening.
from the program.
Yes. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes.
So I want
much.
you now
Yes.
to tell
Thank you.
everyone the
Thank
mission
you.
statement
Thank you.
before I get the
Thank you.
clue that we're going to be
Mm.
off the air.
Thank you, Dr. Lee, giving me an opportunity to tell our vision.
Thank you.
The pharmaceutical vision, we have a very a clear vision, which is to help people live healthy lives and enhance their overall well-being by applying the principles of bioscience while respecting the laws of nature. We call this vision quality of life, and we regard the respecting the laws of nature highly, highly important. Thank you. Thank you for having me here
Thank you.
tonight.
And let's put the name of the company up there. I want people to see the name of the company, because so they'll see it and remember it and never forget it, because this is something you need to take daily. Even if you just do one and you have no problems. My daughters are so happy and they're healthy. My last grandchild is probably healthier than she would have been if she was not taking it. So I am just so grateful for my 10 grandchildren, and they're doing all great, thanks to the different things I have learned and now added this to my program. So again, as we close the show, we say something very powerful, and I want you to take this into you. I know I say I am, but the I am is powerful. We know the word I am is very, very powerful. And that's how you want to start your day. Start your day with positive affirmations. Start your day with loving yourself. Start your day telling yourself, this is going to be the best day of the rest of my life. Today is, this moment, this second, while you're listening to this show. This is very important, a very important time. Repeat after me. I am
I am
so grateful
so grateful
that I am
that I am
a magnet
a
a magnet
for miracles.
for miracles.
And watch them develop. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you for
Thank you.
this opportunity having us here.
Thank you. Thank you for being.
Join us every Wednesday live at 11 a.m. for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Remember, healthy mind, healthy body. It's time for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Join your host, the accomplished Dr. Cherilyn Lee, as she welcomes the leading experts in health and well-being as they explore the advancements in natural health, physical fitness, nutrition, integrative medicine, and self-discovery.
Well, we are back in the studio again for part 2. I know you saw our wonderful show before with my 2 wonderful guests, which we're going to start all over and have them introduce themselves again, just in case you were not around to see the show before. But you know, our topic is something that's very powerful, because I was just asked this question from a patient more than once. Why am I not healing? And the other patients are. So I have a doctor here with me who he gets the same questions. He have people coming in his office as well, and people ask, why am I not getting better? And this person is getting better. So there are some reasons why some people heal and some people don't. So that is the title of our show. I want to thank you for tuning in, and now I'm going to introduce my wonderful guests. Better yet, I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So I have Dr. Dan Tanner.
Do I get to go first?
Yes, this time.
Okay. I'm Dan Kenner. I'm a writer and a consultant in alternative healthcare, and I trained in Japan in Oriental medicine, so I'm licensed in Japan.